All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Here. Mrs. Spiritu. Here. Ms. Laird. Here. Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held October 10th, 2022, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
So moved. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Mrs. Spiritu. Yes. Ms. Laird.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. On to legislative report.
Yes, I have a quick update for you on our last presentation that we had, which was regarding the lawsuit in circulation currently as opposed to some of the elements of school choice. John did follow up with our attorney. I'd asked if he could give us an opinion on the merits of the lawsuit itself, and he wasn't comfortable coming to a conclusion on that because this is so new. There's not a lot of case law to base it off of, which makes sense. So I think the fair thing to do, since we heard from representatives in opposition, that we hear from someone in support. And if that's all right with you, we'll have Gary Click come looking at the schedules of everything that's already booked, probably the second meeting in November.
That's fine with me. But if I may, I reached out to Mr. Click, and he actually gave me a name of someone who would actually be willing to come and present. Now, I could ask again to see if Gary could come himself, but he said he had someone that might come in his stead to kind of give the pro argument. Would you like me to reach out to Gary more specifically?
How do you feel? If he has a designee, are you okay with that? Or?
Yeah, I think if it's from the group that is.
Say what? How about I do that? I'll reach out to him and ask, just to clarify, Gary would love to have you. Make sure he knows he's welcome first.
Absolutely.
And then let him defer if he chooses. How's that?
Right.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at the late meeting in November, early one December.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
All
That's what I have for you, if that's all right.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next, walk-on items. The only thing we have, and it doesn't have to have a motion, we were looking at the calendar. Let me pull up my calendar here real quick. For our meetings in November, the first one is scheduled for Monday, November 14th. That's on Capitol Conference. So John, Megan, Sarah, and I will all be down at Capitol Conference on that Sunday through Tuesday. So there's a couple different things that we could do. We could cancel the meeting and just go to our second one, which is the 28th, which is after Thanksgiving break. Or we could move it up 1 week to Monday, November 7th. That'd be 2 weeks from tonight. That still gives us that first meeting of the month. So if there are some items that we need to have for approval, that can be brought. But we just thought we'd bring it up tonight and kind of make that decision. That way we can get notice out to the public if it is either a cancellation or a change of date. What's anyone's thoughts on Monday, November 7th?
That is voting day.
The 8th would.
No, the 8th? I was going to say, is it? Okay.
Tuesday.
I just looked it up and it's telling me the 7th. But, all right, I already voted. So, I didn't look.
You're clear.
I did that. Okay. Then my only other question would be, John, as far as contract renewals and administrative business, do you have enough that we would need to do it on the 7th, or what's the workload look like for you?
I don't think this time of year there would be a lot that would be that hot that we couldn't cancel. So that's my 2 cents. I mean, it's always good to meet. There's always something. But I don't know of anything that's, especially outside of personnel issues, which this is a very cooled off time for personnel issues. So
Right.
we could probably cancel without any interruption to operations. Whatever the board chooses.
We get to decide. So it's, I mean, with the
I
input
make a
from,
motion to cancel the meeting.
just cancel the meeting. Okay. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? So we'll just, that motion would be to cancel that first meeting. So November 14th, we would cancel that first meeting of the month. Still continue with our second meeting, which would be November 28th, the Monday after Thanksgiving. So we can do that. Okay. Roll call, please, on that.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Speartoo?
Yes.
Ms. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. And then John and Megan, if you can just get the notification
Absolutely.
out so we can get that public notice out saying that that would be canceled. Okay, moving on to the community portion. This is the first hearing of the public. If anyone would like to speak to the board, we just ask that you'd come up to the podium, state your name and addresses for record purposes. We'll give everyone a chance to speak if they would like to. So now is the time if you'd like to come.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for a moment of your time this evening. My name is Pastor Matt Wheeler. I serve as pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church here in Fremont, 212 North Clover Street here in Fremont. And my colleague and I, Father Matt Walgren of St. Paul's Episcopal, have co-written a letter to share with you tonight. If it's okay, we'll read it together.
Well, not at the exact same
In
time.
unison? All right. Like in church. I love it. Yeah.
My address is 1312 Krogan.
Okay, thank you.
Dear school board members and Superintendent Detweiler, thank you for your attentive and conscientious work with and for Fremont City Schools. Your diligence is most certainly noticed and very much appreciated. As some of us have children enrolled in the school system, we are even more grateful for your example of leadership and excellence in learning. Recently, the Lieutenant Governor for the state of Ohio, John Husted, met with local clergy and workers in Fremont regarding the U.S. Supreme Court stating that, quote, public school children may receive faith-based biblical instruction during the school day so long as it does not occur on school property or use public resources, unquote. Concerns regarding practical matters of losing an hour per week of formal education for young people aside, some of us local clergy in attendance, or ones who have been expressly received communication disseminated from some in attendance, are concerned about the curriculum the Lieutenant Governor was publicizing, promoting, and advocating during that meeting.
While we wholeheartedly agree with the Lieutenant Governor's sharing in the email invitation, children and youth need virtues like responsibility, kindness, etc., cultivated in their lives, the exact curriculum noted above is distinctly tied to a narrow stream of Christianity that does not promote the breadth of the church. The curriculum being promoted is from the Christian publishing company, Lifeway Christian Resources. One of our primary concerns is this: Lifeway Publishing is openly homophobic, transphobic, and patriarchal. In their own doctrinal guidelines, they state, "In the spirit of Christ, Christians should oppose homosexuality, and every Christian should seek to bring industry, government, and society as a whole under the sway of the principles." While we find several admirable qualities such as humility and care for those in need embedded within the principles, these are bound to the previously mentioned oppressive stances. Furthermore, we have a concern as to the equity of opening a time of religious instruction to children, while only offering one stream of Christian thought to families in our community. The express goal of Lifeway is proselytization, a worldview that ostracizes many on the margins. Their doctrine states, It is the duty of every child of God to seek constantly to win the lost to Christ by verbal witness, undergirded by a Christian lifestyle. The lifestyle includes stances against LGBTQ+ persons, as well as removing women from leadership. In short, we have concerns that the curriculum being promoted by the Lieutenant Governor values proselytization over inclusion, which could potentially disrupt long-sustained efforts by community leaders to cultivate greater understanding and empathy, i.e., responsibility and kindness within our community.
Certainly, as ordained clergy within our respective faith traditions, we have very strong and passionate beliefs about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And these beliefs turn us toward valuing diversity, inclusion, understanding, peacemaking, nurturing the whole person, especially for the sake of young people in our community. We value lifelong learning that fosters social responsibility and greater understanding in an increasingly diverse and pluralistic society. If our concerns are discovered to be unfounded and we have erred in our judgment, we would certainly offer our churches and facilities to be the first in line to host young people in their learning if the need should arise. If we are to err, we hope to err on the side of inclusivity and diversity, not conformity or coercion. Thank you, and respectfully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the board tonight?
Hello, my name is Kathleen Nally, and I reside at 1493 Autumn Woods Drive. I am a past special education director working within Fremont schools for many, many years. The reason I'd like to address the board is, again, having learned of the LifeWise program that is going to be introduced and discussed by the board. And in these times, as school districts are responding to the post-COVID academic delays of our students, I just want to express that I know there's a lot of work ahead. As a special ed director, I was able to witness scheduling is so difficult for teachers, for principals, and administrators trying to meet all the needs of all the students. There is a huge respect for the core curriculum, so that my staff at the time would be so respectful of when do you pull that child from class for physical therapy, for speech therapy, for occupational therapy, for mentoring programs. And it all is very balanced. And nobody likes to take library time and music time and recess time and any type of lunch time. So it's a highly stressful endeavor for administrators and then for teachers as things come up and students are in and out. So I just would like to say that I would only hope that respect for those teachers who are highly strained right now because they know students need a ways to go because of so much time off. and administrators trying to work closely with the teachers to make sure only good things happen for the students, and that all their needs be addressed. So I would only hope that you would closely adhere to the district policy that you have. Release time for religious instruction, code JEFB, that dictates that it's truly the parent's responsibility should they want a child to be removed from a class for religious instruction. It's not the responsibility of the principal or the teacher to make that happen above and beyond. So that's all I have to say. Just hoping that you make those considerations in your future decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Okay. Not, we'll move on in the agenda. Next part, superintendent's report.
All right. Mr. Price, if I may, I have a few things I'd like to talk about afterwards. I think it'd be prudent to just go ahead and move ahead with our work session topic of LifeWise presentation this evening.
Sure.
We have Sandy Steiner here, who's asked to come and give a presentation. Sandy, if you would. Thank you very much. We're going to go on the board, I think.
Yeah. I just
That
push
clicker,
this
yeah.
to go.
Push that to the right.
Okay.
There we go. There you are.
Well, and I'll try to make this. Do you want my address as well?
No,
Sand-
you're good.
Okay.
Because you were asked to present it, so we have your information. and
Thank
everything.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, my name's Sandy Steiner, and I am an advancement rep for the national office with LifeWise Academy, but also have the really unique privilege to serve as the local program director for Pandora Gilboa. So just about an hour and a half from here. And so I get to see the day in and day out of a regular program and how it works, as well as seeing how it is from the ministry standpoint. So to give you a little bit of a backstory about Pandora Gilboa, we launched in 2020. We offered a release time program for our kindergarten through fourth grade students. They loved it. Our fourth grade wanted to continue, and so we expanded into fifth through eighth grade. And then this year we've actually expanded. So we offer our release time LifeWise for kindergarten through 12th grade students. Our high school kids actually get to receive high school credit for it. And so it's been a great opportunity for our students. I can speak on behalf of our administration, of our community. They're extremely supportive of it as well. So for the sake of time, I thought it would be helpful to show just a short video that kind of explains LifeWise, but also explains the law of release time and those requirements. So I will go ahead and play that real quick.
My son is in the second grade at our local public school, and somehow he gets to attend a Bible class during the school day.
The Supreme Court has spoken. Public school students can receive Bible education during school hours. I know it sounds crazy, but it's real. Almost everyone has heard of the separation of church and state, but almost no one knows that in 1952, the Supreme Court ruled that public school students can be released from school in the middle of the school day to receive Bible education as long as the program is off school property, privately funded, and they have parental permission. LifeWise Academy believes this is the single greatest missed opportunity of the American church to reach the next generation. LifeWise Academy exists to provide all the plug-and-play tools to communities like yours to launch a local program. Not only is the concept possible, but it's spreading rapidly and students' lives are being changed. We are seeing some of our programs have a participation rate of more than 95% of their local public school students. Most of these students are completely unfamiliar with the basic Bible stories. I was in one class recently where the teacher asked if anyone knew the names of Jesus' parents, and in a class of 20 public school students, not a single one knew that Joseph and Mary were the names of Jesus' parents. But all of those students are now being taught the Bible.
I have seen my own children testify. They've seen their classmates changed.
Kids need to be affirmed, they need sports, but more than anything, they need to hear the gospel.
There are people in our backyard who have never heard the name of Jesus.
I don't know about any other organizations that are doing anything like this.
We wouldn't be able to discuss these things with them if not for doing it right in the middle of the school day.
The law allows us to do it, so why not do it?
What could be more important than the next generation learning the Word of God? And why not have a Bible education program for your public school students? Anyone in any community can get the ball rolling. Voice your support for a Bible education program for your local school at lifewiseacademy.org.
Peacetime religious instruction law. And what's great about this law is that any religion can choose to adopt or use the policy to have a release time program. It's not exclusive to just the Christian faith. However, LifeWise specifically, we're requesting to utilize the policy and ask for a release time program called LifeWise. Just like the video stated, and I always like to reiterate this because this is often an area where there's a little bit of confusion where people will hear, oh, you can't do that. That's not legal. As long as we follow all three of these guidelines, and I can assure you LifeWise does everything to the utmost excellence, that as long as it is off school property, so again, we can't utilize the cafeteria or a classroom or anywhere in the school building. It has to be off site. It is privately funded, so not a single school tax dollar is used to fund a LifeWise program in any way, and also parents' permission. So students that are wanting to attend or their parents sign a permission slip that says that they can attend. If a parent chooses to not have their children enrolled in LifeWise, that's totally okay. They just don't sign the permission slip and say, I would rather my student not attend the LifeWise program. So as long as we follow those three laws or those three guidelines, LifeWise is completely legal. One of the other, as you guys spoke on, the character development is huge. We are walking the students through the Bible, or we open up God's Word and we walk them from Genesis to Revelation, but we also emphasize character development. We realize that mental health is truly something that we're facing. You guys as educators, you see this firsthand. We see this firsthand in our classrooms as well, and we're seeing all-time highs of anxiety, depression, and suicide, but we're also seeing really low levels of church attendance, professions of faith, and Bible literacy. And so as LifeWise, we want to change that. We want to walk students through the Bible and teach them God's Word. And in that packet of, you guys all received a folder, the red packet in there, it says what educators need to know. If you go all the way to the back of the booklet, you'll see a sample of the curriculum and the character qualities that are incorporated in there. And so again, our students love it. They're learning biblical history, and they're also learning things like respect and integrity and generosity and loyalty and all these things that we want to instill in our kids. So I think that's it. I did want to leave a little bit of time if any of you guys have questions specifically, again, from a local program side, if I can help you. I know some of the questions about scheduling, I'd love to even share that. So do you guys have any questions for me?
Do you have a response to some of the concerns regarding the inclusion of all persons, including LGBTQ?
LifeWise is open to any student that should choose to come. We have students of all different faiths. We have students of all different LGBT, there's not an exclusion to anybody is welcome to come.
It's not an exclusion to participate.
No.
In the teachings, is there any teaching against homosexuality?
Our curriculum does not teach on that, no. We walk the students literally from Genesis to Revelation, and then the aspect of humans, or I believe it's I think it's our second lesson where we're walking through Genesis, and the character quality is respect, and we state God created people, and therefore all people should be respected. So it's not LGBTQ is not in our curriculum
Is
at all.
sexuality in your curriculum?
No. And you're welcome. I mean, if anybody wants to see the curriculum is actually the Gospel Project, and it has been, So if you write down the Gospel Project, the only change is LifeWise has branded it to include those character qualities in there. So that's where it can look a little bit different.
John, the rest of my questions would be to you on a legal matter. So if anybody else has questions for the presenter.
I guess I have a question about why during school as opposed to after school.
And that's a good question. A lot of people ask that because there are a lot of really great before and after school programs. I mean, there's Campus Life, there's Good News Club, there's a lot. But it doesn't allow for very much participation because usually we're running into sports or other activities after school or before school. And we don't want to compete with those. Those are great organizations. Fellowship of Christian Athletes is there as well. During the school day, how it typically fits in a typical schedule is it falls in the specials rotation. So like all of your core classes, of course, are not touched. Math, English, science, those are not touched at all. The specials rotation, most schools have art, music, tech time, library, and physical education, or phys ed. Typically, it falls in a library time, and the librarian allows those LifeWise students to check out books either during a recess time, or they can go before lunch or after lunch, sometimes before school or after school. So they're not losing any of those core classes at all. For Pandora Gilboa specifically, our kindergarten students, they actually have gym 5 days a week. So they simply lose a gym class. So they go to gym, they still have all of their regular classes. They still have 4 days of gym. They just lose one gym class if their parents say, yeah, we would love for you to go to LifeWise, it's okay for you to lose a gym class. So that's how we fit it in the schedule. Every school's a little bit different. Some of our larger schools, Pandora's pretty small. I don't know how many you guys graduate as far as a school goes, but some of our larger schools, they actually have created a release time period, and it's open to all faiths. So should there be a Muslim group that comes in and says, I would love to have a release time, by law, absolutely, take advantage of that. And so they've actually created a release time period. And so any religion that would like to have a release time, they slide in that spot. So it's completely open to the law is for all religions, not just Christianity, but LifeWise specifically, we're requesting for the Bible to be taught.
I have another question.
Sure.
So this outcome data that you provided, or that LifeWise is provided to you specifically, is this national data? Is this from one school system? Because it's a small sample. So I guess I just wanted to know.
That would be from a national standpoint. I believe that was taken last year. So when LifeWise first began, they first began in 2018 and have expanded from there. So right now we have about 125 schools in 5 different states that are launching a LifeWise program. So it appears to be probably a little bit small because that was probably about 80 schools maybe when that was calculated. So like this year, the beginning of the school year, we did a survey with all of our students, and we'll do a survey again in our administration and teachers, and we will do one again at the end of the school year. I'm not sure if that one included students, or is it just administration or teachers?
This is administrators and teachers.
Okay. We do too, to kind of, gauge the kids as well.
Couple questions.
Sure.
So is it set up, no matter what grade level it is it usually just one period a week?
Mm-hmm.
It's one day, or however it's set up with each school district, but it's just once a week. It's not a multiple day thing?
Most schools, we have found it to be most successful and fit into the schedule 1 day a week all year long. Some schools will do it by semester. I believe Ayersville does it by semester. So they will go every day of the week for one semester, and then they alter to the next group of kids just based on how it fits in the schedule. But that's completely unique to your school. And you guys could choose where that best fits. I know for Findlay City, when we presented to them, the principal said, here's my schedule, show me where it fits. And so we're like, okay. So we took on that challenge and we gave him a couple of options, and he's like, okay, this looks great, this will work. So we're open to helping, administration if they're not quite sure where it can fit in, but most of the time, there's a spot somewhere. I know like our superintendent and our principal, Mrs. Schrader, she said anybody can call me at any time if they have questions as to how that can fit in the schedule. And she said she'd be happy to help any of you guys.
So I'm sorry, were you done?
I just had one more question.
Yeah.
So whether it was a video or I think it maybe was in the video, at a high school level, it can actually count as a credit towards does that fall in the same category for like middle schoolers? I understand for elementary it wouldn't be, but.
For our middle schoolers, no. Our middle schoolers, we handle it just like we do the elementary students. For high school, it's actually considered an elective. So students would elect it just like they would.
Gotcha.
Spanish, or they can elect to have it. In the high school level, we certainly have to have a licensed teacher, educator, curriculum. Everything is run through our guidance counselor, superintendent, principal. We also are planning to offer a college credit plus option. So we're partnering with Ohio Christian University. So a student can choose LifeWise as an elective and receive college credit for it as well. We have to have, for our school, we have to have at least 5 students that want to take the college level class, and we don't have that many students yet. So we're hoping to add that, but at this point, we don't. But high school, yes, they're going to get a credit for it.
Okay, thank you.
So are you finding in the scheduling, if I'm hearing you correctly, for the younger students, you're finding a common day fairly easily where it doesn't take away from a core academic class?
Right. And by law, it can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the high school level, you're saying because it's an elective, the student and the parent has to approve, the student is finding where if that can fit in their schedule, and they're moving their own schedule to fit what you offer.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Just questions for
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Senator.
Susan, thank you.
Yeah.
Sandy.
Sure.
Sandy.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know how to turn that off, so.
That's
Corey,
all right, we
can I
got
just
that.
leave it? Okay. If anybody has a question?
We have Corey, so don't you worry. Corey knows everything.
So John, my
Yes, ma'am.
my question really comes down to what specific level of authority does the school board have on the curriculum? I hear your concerns. I understand your concerns. My concern with our ability to respond much to that is this. Typically, when something is offered to the public, the school doesn't have discretion on things like that. For example, if somebody wants to get a permit to use the public building, to use our gym for something, we can't deny them simply because we disagree with the basis of the organization using it. Is that the case here? Since it is saying any religion can do this by law, do we have the authority to say we don't want this particular curriculum though?
I don't think we do. It's my understanding in my meeting this summer with Lieutenant Husted, that once they leave the school grounds, it's really a hands-off thing, and the attendance is taken, right, and they kind of go to that, and then they come back, and there's attendance taken, but once they step off school grounds, we have no control over that whatsoever.
And oftentimes people ask about the liability of that. So the second a student steps off of school property, they fall under the blanket of LifeWise liability insurance. And then while they're off school property, and then until they come back and step foot on school property. And I remember when we sat before our superintendent, and and we already had the policy in place, and I believe you as a school do as well. And he said, Sandy, he goes, I can't help you. Like, I can't be walking students to LifeWise. None of our teachers, none of you guys can help in any way, shape, or form. And he said, but by law, I can cooperate with you, and I'm willing to cooperate with you and allow you to offer this for our students, because he viewed it as an opportunity for the students and the parents, should the parents want it. And if they don't, and like I said, with our gym class, so we have, if a student chooses or the parents say, I don't want my son or daughter to participate, they go to gym just like normal. So nothing changes for them. But it does give the parents an opportunity, if they want that, to send their kids.
So basically, any religion, any organization under a religious umbrella of any kind could come to the school, and provided they meet those 3 criteria. And should the school choose to, which I think might be a good idea, take the suggestion of Mrs. Nally, that the organization and the student, the parent, figure out
Right.
when that child goes, that responsibility of organization is not put on the district, because to me, that kind of comes to the resources. That's our administrator's time. Then past that, it seems to me legally we don't have a lot of say in a formal manner. We do not. It is not uncommon that legislation gets written that contradicts itself. School boards are in charge of putting policy together for the district that complies with the law. So we have policies because of law to include LGBTQ students in every manner. I understand your concern that if you believe there's a curriculum that is taught to contradict that, it contradicts that what we've said over here. But I think the catch is that when a curriculum is presented under this program, the school board, I don't think, has any official authority over it to say whether they can or cannot. We can only write policies that comply with the law. And in this case, we have 2. We have the one that allows for the religious education done in that manner, and we have the inclusion of LGBTQ students. If they step off school property to participate in the one, we have no control over making sure the other is complied with. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
And frustrating as that may be to hear for some, that is very frustrating to administer, in my opinion. Which direction do we go here in order to provide for our community their rights? So it is tough. And I'm thinking, while I appreciate the concerns, it seems to me the specific concerns that are brought up are curriculum oriented, and the law allows for whatever curriculum they want to use. So it seems to me your advocacy would probably be more in line with the legislative body of the state, that who makes the laws, rather than those who have to write policies to comply with the laws. And that's our role here, is to write those policies. And that may be frustrating, but every level of government has to stay in its lane. As individual people, we can advocate for whatever we want. As an individual citizen, we can do that. But as a school board, we have to stay in our lane and how the Ohio Revised Code describes the role of a school board and what you can and cannot do. Is that correct, John?
I think you're right on.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
May I
did have one other.
I'm sorry. I have something else too. Go ahead, Mr. Price.
Okay, I just had one other question, if I could ask about the program. So obviously, the school isn't paying for it. There's transportation costs involved. There's a facility involved. There's someone teaching that. Does LifeWise fund this? Is it a community thing? How is it funded, I guess, would be the question.
The community.
And if I could just add on, how is it staffed? So, like, was there a specific child to adult to child ratio that has to be met?
We, so to answer your question, as far as like funding goes, it's the community. The community raises support. Oftentimes local churches step in, community members, businesses, business owners, those that align themselves with LifeWise oftentimes are the ones that support it. We do have transportation. We meet in a church that's just across the street from the school, but it's a little bit too far for the kids to walk. So we have a LifeWise shuttle bus that we pull right up to the sidewalk. We pick up the students, we drive them to the church, we have class, and then we bring them back and walk them back into the school building. So yeah, there's definitely cost involved, and thankfully, the church, we don't have to pay anything to the church, but there are definitely programs that have actual buildings that they have built, or renovated homes that are across the street in order to accommodate for the students. And to answer your question, so yes, I mean, we try to follow all of the guidelines with the school. So like if there's an active shooter, we try to follow the same guidelines. During COVID, we did the exact thing. We mimicked everything that our school did, we did in our LifeWise program. So, and we encourage that for our teachers and just our LifeWise program. Again, every school district's a little bit different, and it's going to look a little bit different for all of you. I know for Liberty Benton School, for instance, they, in order for their schedule to work, they're releasing an entire grade all at the same time. So you're talking 90 students are going to be released all at the same time. They have a large full-size school bus. The kids will get on a large full-size school bus. They'll go across the street to Gateway, and then they'll distribute into smaller class sizes of probably 15 to 20 students. Our largest class size is 18 students, and I don't anticipate it ever being any bigger. We could have 20. That would be our entire class, would be 20 students.
And managed by how many adults?
We always have a couple volunteers and a teacher. So with the way ours is set up, and all LifeWise programs, there's never only one adult in a classroom ever at any time. We have our teacher, and then in our case, we have a driver, our volunteer driver, that transports the kids, then stays in the classroom with our students. In some of our classes, we actually have 2 volunteers. Those larger 18 students, so they have a teacher and 2 volunteers to monitor bathroom breaks, and everyone is thoroughly background checked as well. Teachers, volunteers, anybody associated with the program. So yes, and we do pay our teachers. We feel that that's really, really important. A teacher is a very, it's a difficult job, and you guys.
If you have some extras, we'd take them.
I mean, this isn't just a volunteer thing. I mean, we pay our teachers. We know that that's really, really important. We train them, we educate them. The curriculum is all right there. It's literally plug and play. So it's, so yeah.
You mentioned Findlay City Schools. Are they? Because I'm thinking, I know Pandora Gilboa. I went to Bluffton College, so it's in the neighborhood there. Very small community.
Yeah, our graduating class is like 35 students.
Yeah,
so
we have 300. So it's a little different beast. You said Findlay City Schools is doing this? Okay.
Findlay City School is getting ready to launch in 2 of their elementary schools, Bigelow Hill and Northview. And I believe, I could be wrong on this, I believe that's 3rd through 5th grade. I know it's 2 elementary schools, but I'm not sure if it's the little kids or if it's the 3rd through 5th grade. And they're choosing those 2 schools simply because there's a church right next door. They hope to eventually be in all of the elementary schools, if possible. But right now it will be just 2, and they hope to start in January. So they're not up and running quite yet, but it should be coming.
Okay. Sorry to bring you back.
No,
back and
I'm
forth
glad.
all the time. So thank you.
Right.
Anything else? Okay. We can move on then to next part of the agenda. Recommendations of the superintendent.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Price. First of all, I've got a couple signs over here. If you are a resident and would like a levy sign, we would love your support. We have a levy coming up November 8th. The Citizens for Schools Committee has been meeting every other week and doing a lot of good work to get that process going. I did, and I think you, I will contact Mr. Click about the next steps for the coalition. I did go over to Bowling Green last Thursday night and kind of heard again a similar presentation that we heard last time from William Phyllis, but he also had some school board members there that kind of gave a different perspective on their view of the backpack bill and what's coming down the pike with that. Let's see, some good news. I've got a letter from a student, and I wanted to share it now. It's the senior football players took a chance to thank a teacher, and they wrote letters to their teachers and told them what they meant to them as they kind of reflect on their senior years. So Jarrah Scott wrote a letter to Mrs. Hanson. If you're permission, can I just read it? It's not very long. It's just good stuff. Dear Mrs. Hanson, first I want to say you are a great teacher and I respect you so much. You made me like English because the way you would teach us and how you made things easier than it was. Then you made me a better person because when I used to goof off in class and my grades weren't right, you would always keep me in check, and for that I respect you even more. I really want to thank you for that because you changed my perspective on school. And since it's my senior year, I started off good and I got all A's and B's. And that's because of you and how you changed my perspective. Even though you were hard on us, we always had fun in class. And I know how you always put a smile on our face. Sincerely, Jarrah Scott. Just wanted to share that, just because that's happening all over our district, by the way. I know you know that, but we're changing people's lives every day. Another good news is our teacher, Mr. Scherzer at the high school, put together a, it's called Poof. It's a geodesic 10-foot tall structure. There's probably not too much, probably wouldn't fit in here. It might just fit in this room, and probably 10 feet across. And it's tubes, and it's powered by air, and all these tubes are connected. And it's all decorated like a monster. And the kids take plastic leis, like Hawaiian leis, and they put them into these tubes, and it shoots all over this geodesic shape and then comes out the top. He was given an opportunity to bring that to the Cincinnati art show. I can't remember the name of that art show. It's a famous light art show in Cincinnati. He and a group of his comrades in Toledo have been working on this project. So I just wanted to do a real public shout out to Bradley Scherzer and his accomplishment. Really went above and beyond, and he's just a tremendous asset for Fremont City Schools. I will send you a picture of that. I should have brought one it's called Poof, and it was a kind of an interactive art project that he was a part of, and I'll get that to you. Let's see. It's already the end of the first quarter. Hard to imagine. We are 8 weeks. Our first quarter is a little short. The first 2 quarters are a little short because of Christmas break. Already done with our first quarter. I think that's all I had on my list. All right, I'll keep moving then, Mr. Price, if that's okay. All right. And facilities and operations, this we've been talking about for a while, and the board kind of gave its consent kind of unofficially, actually a while ago, to sort of move ahead with our visiting bleachers. They're in bad shape and need replaced. So with your permission tonight, we're going to move forward on that. You'll see that is $315,000. That is an ESSER fund. And that's actually, we were budgeting closer to $500,000 for that. So we're very excited. We're a little worried about supply chain and everything else being an issue, but we're pretty excited about that amount. Not that it's great money, but it's less than we thought. And it's something that really needs to happen. Along with that, then there'll be coming a bid on the concrete under. So this is just the aluminum for the bleachers. We still are working on a price for the foundation that will sit on. So that'll come later. And item 2 then, with your permission, we'll hire Everdriven Partnership. Everdriven is the company that we've looked to help transport one of our students to Columbus for the Ohio School for the Deaf through our special ed department. So those are our first 2 items for contracts.
Can I get a motion to approve items 1 and 2, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Speartoo?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Moving on with item 3. These are our policies. Mr. Price was in our policy meeting. Item 3, 4, and 5 were directly responses to changes in law, and we get those through the High School Board Association, those recommendations. Item 6, though, is the one that we've been working on for a little while, and that's our food service contract. I'm sorry, food service policy. We did find that Code JN, which is our student fees, fines, and charges, actually covers unpaid meal charges. So we didn't have a separate food charge policy. It's underneath the more general topic of student fees. And it allows for everything that we've been doing with students as far as warning them and trying to, not let our policy or charges get out of hand. But there was one edit on that, and that was in the last phrase of a paragraph called unpaid meal charges. We noticed that it talked about not holding meal charges as to be paid as part of graduation ceremonies. That's not actually been our practice. We've combined student fees and lunch fees as a student graduates and asked them to pay that in order to graduate. So our policy, unfortunately, did not match our handbook or our practice. So I'm asking you tonight to help me with that vote, scratch that line which says the exception of participation in commencement services, which allows us then to sort of combine student fees and lunch fees and a fee. Now, I also will say that I have the ultimate right to waive fees, and I sometimes do, depending on family hardship, death in the family. There are things that I can waive as superintendent. So please understand there's still a human touch to this whole thing. It isn't, it's not as harsh as it could be, I guess is what I'm saying. I do have that right to waive fees based on individual circumstances. So with that change in that policy, I think we were covered to continue to do what we do. And it does match up with our handbook language. So those are our policies for this evening.
Can I
First
get a
readings.
motion to approve items 3 through 6, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Can I have a second?
Second, but then we need some discussion.
Okay. Second by Ms. Laird. And discussion.
I think it's important just to remind the public of a couple of things before I have some questions first.
Sure.
Folks, we were so fortunate to have grant money for a period of some years that enabled us to provide free lunches district-wide. The grant money went away. Parents were notified well in advance, but I understand the busy lives of parents and the communication of students to parents and how that can, all lapse. And nobody wants a child to go without food. Nobody wants that to be the case. But the financial resources to provide that simply changed. The opportunity to apply and qualify for free and reduced lunches is still and always has been available. So if your family is struggling with this issue, please contact your child's building administrator, and they will help you look at the resources that are available. So simply because those grants are gone doesn't mean that there's not help for your family. There very well may be, and our staff is more than willing to help you with that. And if those resources aren't available, as John has indicated, we understand what we would refer to as the working poor. Those who make just enough that you don't qualify for assistance, but not enough to cover everything that you'd really like to provide for your child. Where efforts can be made and things can be worked out and collaboration, John can do that for you. I think it's really important for everybody to know that when we look at this policy. I also want to stress and verify the financial conversations are no longer happening with the student in the lunch line.
That's right.
That is not happening anymore. The nice lunch ladies that serve us aren't equipped to be debt collectors, nor do we want them to with children in front of their peers. the financial condition and monies owed of the household is a parent's responsibility. And while there may be a conversation privately with the student, one, because it's really important for our educators to know what's happening with that child. If they can't afford lunch, might be something else that the school needs to be aware of. So kind of a needs assessment. Correct?
Exactly right.
And then from there, the real financial conversation is taking place with the school staff and the parent. So just wanted to clarify those changes. You know, there's been some discussion on social media and put that out there.
I might add too, we had formed a quick subcommittee with 2 of our board members on it and talked about how to help families. And we have posted a position, a stipend actually right now for someone to actually fill this spot. So we hope to have someone with kind of their finger on the pulse of all the resources that the district has and the community has. So as we see maybe a charge for a student, their account going into the red, we can intervene quickly and get some help to the family. So we have posted, we haven't hired a person yet for that, but we do have it posted and are looking for, and we have had some interest. So hoping to have that taken care of. It should be a nice thing for us to help families.
And that would include, if I'm not mistaken, like getting that paperwork that goes home.
Absolutely,
To the school,
absolutely.
to
So
the
everyone knows all the opportunities available to them.
to qualify for free or
Yes, ma'am.
reduced lunch.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes. Motion's approved.
All right, thank you. Item 7 is approval of National School Psychology Week. I think there's nothing more appropriate as we talked about student mental health and wellness to kind of recognize the folks in our district that manage this whole area. And it is something. And anybody that's trying to hire a psychologist right now knows it's kind of like finding a unicorn. It's a tremendous challenge, and we have 4, and they are fabulous. So we are very, very fortunate to have a strong school psychologist network. But I think this is even broader than that. This is just recognizing that psychology of students is a big part of school. So with your permission, we'll approve that.
Okay. Can I motion to approve item 7, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Laird. Could I have a second?
Second. In unison.
Second by Miss Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes. Motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Item 8, as we move on into appointments, we've got some certified staff substitutes with your approval. That's item 8A. 8B then, we have a cook, Patricia Belcher, heading to Ross for 4 hours a day, and Jason Swander, custodian 2 at Ross. These have been positions we've been having a little bit difficulty filling, so very excited to have someone in those spots. Turning to the next page, we have support staff subs with your approval. Then item 9, the supplementals. Now that we have hauled the most of the head coaches in place, we start filling some of the assistants and so forth. So you can see we have varsity assistant basketball, a focus intervention tutor, middle school swim, and our girls head wrestling coach, which we're very excited about. Item 10, supplemental duty positions. Section 2 there you'll see we have swim, dive, 9th grade basketball, and varsity assistant basketball. And those are our non-certified helpers in that area. Item 11, IEP writers. This is to basically comply with the state's mandate that we support special ed students who are our residents but are schooled in other buildings, other districts actually. So it's a John Peterson Scholarship and some other things that qualify as out-of-district scholarships. But we're still responsible for the IEPs, which is the special ed document guiding their education, even because they are our residents. Item 12, a status change for Jessica Fish from custodian A29 to A27.
Can I get a motion to approve items 8 through 12, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion?
John, just to clarify,
ma'am.
the 80 hours maximum that we're responsible for paying. That's specific to those writing the IEP and that only. It's not for the actual specialized instruction
No,
or
that's-
resources.
that is correct.
Just our district assesses the need and
That's
writes
right.
it.
That's right.
it's
And meets with
someone
the
else.
team. That's right. Now they may travel to Findlay or wherever that facility is, meet with the team, but they will be the district's representative for that IEP process.
Okay.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom? Yes. Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
All right. A couple purchases then, with your permission, for curriculum. We have, if you remember, a very sizable grant that we worked in partnership with GLCAP. That's that first one, item 13. Would like to purchase $29,000 worth of Dell technology. This is covered through that grant, so very excited about that. Then item 14, this is an ESSER expense. These are sort of the last of our staff members who didn't get a wave of technology upgrades the last time we did it. So we took care of teachers, administrators, and so forth. So now we're looking at nurses, secretaries, some of the support staff that use, like my assistant at the district office. Some of those machines were really outdated. So this will help get us all kind of up to that next level capability with our technology. So with your approval.
Can I get a motion to approve item 13 and 14, please?
So moved.
What? Sorry. Motion by Mrs. Spiritu. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Laird. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to report of the treasurer.
Good evening. I have one thing. It doesn't need board approval or anything, but I just wanted to let you guys be aware. And if you have any questions before we respond to an email we had gotten from, it's the normal procedure. This is the first one I've gotten, but the Sandusky County Economic Development Corporation sent us an email saying that one of our Fremont companies, Motion Controls Robotics, is looking to be expanding with 25,000 additional square footage and 18 full-time jobs. And so they were looking for an abatement for the enterprise zone. And it follows the normal terms of our other abatements that we have in the district, 75% and 10-year. This expansion's they're hoping will result in about a $1.2 million increase in payroll, which hopefully if those are Fremont residents that are getting those jobs, the district would see some of that income with income tax. So we have the letter ready. I just wanted to let you guys know, and if you had any questions for me before we move forward with the request.
I do, and I hope this doesn't come off as sarcasm because it goes back to a point of contention the board had at the county level with real estate taxes some time ago. I think this is a wonderful project, and I love economic growth. That's good for everybody in every way, including the school. I'm just wondering, given the change in the law, if we were to not provide the abatement, at the end of the day, the way the law is written now, the county auditor can assign the real estate value, therefore the tax, regardless. So to me, it almost makes sense to just not engage in the conflict and support the growth and let it ride. We don't have the checks and balance that we used to have as a school board when it came to contesting values assigned to real estate. Am I right? We don't have that anymore.
No, we don't.
It's been severely dampened, yes.
Yes. So it almost seems like if at the end of the road, that's what's going to happen, then if we were to contest that now and partake of the conflict, I don't see anything
No win.
positive coming
No,
out of it.
it's a
I don't
lose-lose.
see
I would agree.
anything positive. Because if we wanted to advocate for a higher real estate value, we have no ability to make that happen the way we used to. So I think that we I think we should go in the spirit of positivity and congratulate them on their growth.
Yep.
And support them. Just a thought.
Yeah, this particular was brought the governor into town for this ceremony for this,
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
big.
Right.
Yes. So. Yeah.
Okay, and then for your guys' approval tonight, I do have our financial report, which I'll go over briefly real quick, and then some supplemental appropriations. Just a couple of highlights on the financials for the month of September. With the revenue, you'll see we do finally see not a significant, but a nicer increase in our real estate payments, and that has to do with our AMP repayments being done. So it's nice to see that that's finally a nicer difference. We have some assets available that we were able to invest. So our interest on investments is up for the year, which is really, really excited for. And then on the expense side, you'll see that payroll for the prior fiscal year to date versus the current payroll is up quite a bit. September was a 3-pay month. You'll see it normalize back out. That $900,000 is pretty much the size of a payroll. It's actually a little more, but so that difference it's not due to any huge.
I have to admit, I saw that and my stomach dropped. What is going on?
That would be due to a third payroll. And real quick, just with payroll being my old time baby, the beginning of September is a lower payroll, and then by first paying of October, but because it's 3-pay month, we're back to full. Everybody's getting their full pay, so that really does show why that increase is there. So it's just really due to that extra pay. And of course, just for fun, with Lorraine County filing on that Nexus appeal, it is going to be years out before we see anything happen. So just
They've already said that it's going to, just because of the docket that they have, it's going to be years away from making that decision.
Yep. So
Thank you,
Those
Lorraine
wheels of
County.
justice turn very slowly.
Yes. Thank you, Lorraine County,
yes.
Yeah.
So thank you to
for
Lorraine
holding
County
everything up for everybody else.
I mean,
Do you know off the top of your head how many counties that affects in the state?
ooh. I'm trying to
Take a
think.
guess.
I don't want to say because I don't want to be way off. on
And I
that guess,
forget,
but
as
can
we were
look-
going
I can
through
get
all of that with the Nexus pipeline, how many counties it was quite a few. So everyone in the state of Ohio is now held up because one county decided to appeal.
Yep.
And the only hope is that that appeal ends in a better decision for what they have to pay. Now, it also could go the other way, which is what we're really worried about. I mean, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when the state had already said it's going to go up from what they're already paying.
It's double what they were paying, but now we're on hold again. And they'll continue to pay, I assume, at the lower rate, right?
I hope so.
I would
They
guess
still have to
that's
pay at the lower, just like they have
correct.
over the
Right.
past few years as it's been appealed.
Right.
It is also possible that with the general elections, as school board members change, that district may change their position.
Point.
Good point.
Oh, yeah,
Good point.
that's true.
Might have a different
Yeah.
focus, yeah.
But those were the big things I really wanted to highlight with the financial reports for tonight. Give me a second to flip back. And then the only other thing I have for approval tonight is just some supplemental appropriations. These are, first large section you'll see is all Fund 300, which is our athletics. This is their profits that were made at the concession stands last year, so that they want to be able to spend them this year on different items throughout the different sports, which is labeled for each one. And then our Krogan Library was excited. They actually had a bigger book fair this year than what they had budgeted for, so we had to increase their appropriation.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve items 15 and 16, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Laird. Any discussion? All right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to board member communications. Lori.
I love this part. Well, I'd like to thank LifeWise for coming and giving the presentation and explaining the whole ins and outs of the program, and for the pastors for stepping up and giving their input, and the public. I don't really have much else to say. I don't make it to many sports, so I don't get to know what they're doing. I always look to see what the football team, if they win, I don't know. So my kids are grown and they don't do sports, so.
Mary Alice?
I just like to thank the community for coming in and voicing their concerns, and for the LifeWise Academy for answering the some questions that the community have and the board have too.
Chantel?
I'd like to thank our donors. Where would we be without volunteers and donors in public education? So really appreciate that. They truly care for kids. As do our presenters and our community members here, regardless of which position you are on the issue, you're there because you care about kids and their well-being. And you care about civil liberties and our sense of unity. And sometimes that gets a little conflicted when we're being an individual with individual choices, yet we come to common spaces. Then what does that look like, and how do we share that? And I'm very grateful that we live in a country where those things are resolved in matters in this way, matters of public forum and participation. And again, if you feel that the limitation of the authority of a school board isn't going to be able to provide maybe what you sought tonight, the same thing is available in the legislative body. We all have that opportunity to participate. You can even go give testimony there if you'd like to. And I would encourage anybody on either side of the issue to do that, to be part of our government. You know, it is created by and for and of we the people. So thank you for being the people tonight of that. I really appreciate it.
Sarah?
Oh, Miss Laird stole part of my speech. Great minds think alike. Let's call it that.
We should go the other way sometime, right? Mr. Price, come this way. Right?
No, just to echo what Mrs. Laird said, I think we have a great problem. And if the great problem is that we all care about kids and want the best for them, and we all are trying to do what we think is the best for kids, I think that's a great problem to have. Yes, we're in playoff season for lots of sports. I know the volleyball team's
Tonight.
doing well.
Have we heard anything? They're playing
great.
tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they were tonight. So good luck to all the athletes and the coaches moving forward, and congratulations to all the kids who have participated in our fall sports. Encourage everybody to support the musical coming up. So November 5th and 6th at the Performing Arts Center at the high school. If you've not been to our Performing Arts Center, it's beautiful. So November 5th and 6th, the high school is doing Hairspray, and that should be great. The asset team at the middle school is doing a clothing drive through the end of October. So if anybody is switching their closets over, I did that last weekend, and I hate that task, but I know they're doing a clothing drive. If you know any bandies and you need some fruit, the band is having their annual fruit sale. Snatch your favorite bandy up, and you have until November 10th to order fruit. And just a lot of great things that happened in the community over the weekend. We had the City of Fremont's Trunk or Treat. I think they saw a record number of kids and families going through this year. So that was really great to see. I know that the Hands of Our Future group, they did an event at the Hayes Center in conjunction with one of the local nursing homes. And they have younger kids. So talking about planting those seeds of character, I think there's lots of local people doing that as well. And then I know Fremont Ross's Teen Leadership Corps did a trunk or treat on Saturday as well. So again, just kind of echoing that, we have a lot of people that care about our kids in the community, and I don't want us to lose sight of that. So we'll be giant, be present, and be great.
You stole some of my thoughts too, so maybe I'll start with me next time.
We have a great school board. How about
Got the
that?
gavel, baby. It's your gavel.
Well, first, LifeWise, thank you for coming in with the information and presentation. Obviously, information is the key to make any decision. Sure. So the more information we can have to make the right decision for our kids, that's the best thing we can do. So thank you for that. Congratulations on our sports teams. We'll start off with middle school. 7th grade volleyball went undefeated for the entire year. 8th grade volleyball only lost three maybe. Boys 8th grade team won the conference title. We've got a playoff game at home this Friday for football. The girls are playing the rough St. Ursula Academy tonight for sectionals. That's going to be a tough one. Good luck to the volleyball team tonight. The musical, we already have our tickets for Hairspray. My wife and my daughters said make sure I had to purchase them. So if the seats aren't good, it's going to be my fault. I can tell right now. I got to speak to the Teen Leadership Corps this past week. They wanted to remind everyone that they're doing a Socktober. So they collect new socks and it goes to the homeless shelters. So if anyone would like to donate socks, find someone at high school, they can get it to someone in the Teen Leadership Corps to give socks there. It goes obviously till the end of the month for that. Last thing was we had our Vanguard Sentinel board meeting Thursday, and they have been doing projects at different campuses, the Fremont campus, the Sentinel campus in Tiffin, but also the adult ed building here. And that was the last one for capital improvements that they did. And they gave us a tour of, it's the cafeteria for Vanguard, but it's also the adult ed programming over there. The amount of work that they put into it and the programs that they have. I remember when I first got on that board, Greg Edinger, the superintendent, asked me, when was the last time I was at Vanguard? And I said, when I was a sophomore at Clyde on our visit to Vanguard. Obviously, that many years ago, it has changed dramatically. The newest thing that they have for public safety is they have a mock ambulance in a building so that they can, for EMT programming and stuff for the adult ed, they get to run through all that. They did make mention to all of us that are on the board, because it's all the associate schools, is that if a board wanted to have a tour of the facility, they are more than happy to provide that for us, take us around. They can have students introduce us to different programs. I mean, it can be in an evening when there isn't classes going on and when everybody is free. So just want to make that known to the rest of you on the board that if we ever wanted to set up a tour, Greg and the staff over at Vanguard, just so we can see, they're in our backyard. And now with the new high school and everything, it's more of a big campus feel with that whole area now. And we have quite a few students there. So just any questions on what there might be for our community that we can't provide here at Ross and in the trades and stuff like that. What a great job that they do back there and what they offer, even for adult ed, different programs and industry credentials for adult education at little or no cost is pretty amazing just for our community. So just a good piece to have right in our backyard. So with that, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Speartoo?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Meeting's adjourned.